Hey guys, it's Clarissa and I'm back with a new video. So recently I was diagnosed with ADHD and I kind of want to take you on my journey, and as well as I'm going to give statistics and symptoms and all that fun stuff. So it's going to be kind of a mashup of my story and then just other facts and tidbits on what may help you if you're kind of on the edge of, is this something I might have? Is it not? I don't know. So, I wrote tons, I don't know if you can see this, but tons of notes. So, bear with me. Okay. I think most of you guys, first I'm gonna kind of tell my story first and then get in with the facts of ADHD, ADD, kind of go in there. So I'm gonna give you my history. So when I was 20, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, and then a few years down the road, social anxiety disorder. I don't know, I think with age that kind of just got worse. And I usually didn't have depression unless there was a specific cause. So a lot of times doctors would want to treat my anxiety sometimes with a benzo, which is the benzodiazepine family, which is Klonopin, Ativan, Valium, Temazepam, Xanax, the addictive ones per se. And then sometimes where I live, there is a revolving door of mental health practitioners. So just when you get comfortable with one, 6 months later, they're out the door. And you'd get someone new and they'd want to change your medication drastically. So I would get people wanting to change my Klonopin to something like an SSRI, and they absolutely do not work on me. I get the horrible side effects, like the rare 2% where it makes me feel worse, where I have intrusive thoughts, and it's not good. And I pretty much tried them all, like Lexapro, Prozac, Zoloft, Wellbutrin. I tried them all and just not good side effects on me. So they're in my file as absolutely no. So I'm just trying to read my notes. Okay, so after I had my second son, Brody, he was born in September, and I thought his birth and being in the NICU triggered me to have postpartum depression. So I've been seeing my current doctor for almost 3 years, which is amazing that I've been with her that long and she knows me pretty well. So I bumped up my 6-week appointment to maybe 4 weeks. And I told her, I'm pretty sure I have postpartum depression. What can we do about that? So she was working with me, and I was really hesitant about being put on medications because of my background. But it's like I wasn't depressed, but I just kind of felt off. My son it was a traumatic birth. He had to be whisked away to the NICU 2 hours away, and I had a C-section. And within 16 hours of having that C-section, I'm being discharged and going with my husband and my son down to the NICU to be with him. So that whole ordeal, I didn't have a really good birth with my first son. And then I was kind of hoping I'd have the birth that I wanted with my second son the birth I wanted with my first son with my second. And it was worse. And it was scary because we felt that we were going to lose him. And he ended up having a pneumothorax, which is a hole in his lung. He had a collapsed lung. It was a fluke thing. If he was born maybe 24 hours later, might have never happened. So I felt like I got ripped off with the bonding experience. When he was born, I didn't get to hold him. When I was holding him after he's born, they were realizing he was struggling really bad to breathe. And I have videos on his NICU stay and all of that, and then my postpartum depression videos. And I'll I'll link them down below just in case if you're interested. But I didn't feel like I didn't bond with him. I felt like I was ripped off of having a really great bonding experience, and then being stuck with in the NICU, worrying about my oldest son, who was 20 months at the time, and just, it sucked. So I don't know. There's never a disconnect or anything like that. I very much bonded with him immediately, whatever. And let's see. During that time too, my anxiety really increased. So I know I had postpartum anxiety because my regular anxiety was amplified. It was that way after my first son too, that it's like I'm just a new parent and worrying about everything, but it exceeds the normal amount where it's like anxiety times 1,000. I mean, it was bad, but I felt like my boys deserved a better mother. I just felt like I was a horrible mom, and it was a sucky feeling, and that's how my postpartum depression felt. I don't know. I know everyone's is different, but I made the decision to try Vybrid, which isn't your standard SSRI, and it's somewhat newer, so that means there's no generic. It means it's really expensive, even if you have the best insurance. So by the time, you need a pre-authorization to get that. So at first, we met our deductible. I mean, my C-section was $32,000. And then I think Brody being in the NICU for his stay was like $100,000. And then driving 2 hours in an ambulance, that was pretty expensive too. But the new year started and I found out my Vybrid was $400. And that's with insurance. That's with great insurance. So I remember making a video and I asked you guys, what can I do to maybe, I don't know, get some of this knocked off? And you guys pulled through. You guys are amazing. Some of you are pharmacy techs and told me to contact the manufacturer. Maybe I can get a coupon. They didn't have any. GoodRx was way more expensive than my insurance. So I wound up finding some sort of program through the manufacturer where you only pay a portion of it. So it's significantly less. So I was grateful for that, and was thankful for you guys for helping me, because $400 is insane. But yeah, I remember getting my prescription for $15, but I remember finding that out after paying $60 for 5 pills to get me through the weekend, because I was trying to figure it out, and then it ended up going through, and it's like, oh my God, I just spent $60 on 5 pills when I got my whole 30-day supply for 15. Like, this is insane. So anyway, grateful for the awesome advice. And then soon after that, I felt like Vybrid wasn't helping me anymore. I believe it served its purpose, and I was grateful for that. It was getting to me where if I was an hour late taking it, I would get a horrible migraine that would last all night, and brain zaps that were painful. And I felt off. It was not working for me. And I was starting to get extremely forgetful. And I know people are going to say mom brain, whatever. Well, I've experienced mom brain. I know what mom brain is like, and this is totally different. Okay, I was becoming extremely forgetful, where I would run to the store and then I'd have to go 2-3 times because the main thing that I needed, I would forget, which absolutely sucked. And it was frustrating. So the thing is, I've always been known for my great memory. I don't know how I do it, but I'm really good with numbers, dates, weird facts, statistics. I remember it. So by forgetting things, it was beyond frustrating. And then I'd get really angry and pissed off. And it's like, why is it so hard for me to remember things? Even talking, I'd be saying the wrong word, and then I would get frustrated and think, oh my God, I'm such a dumbass. People are going to think I'm a dumbass and just obsess about it. And I thought it was anxiety, but I guess that's a symptom of ADD, ADHD. So just with like the weird numbers, like, and dates. My husband and I remember we were watching Twister, and I told him this came out May 10th, 1996. He Googles it and he's like, how did you know that? And I wouldn't know. It's just, that's how I am. Or we're talking about an album like Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory. I told him came out October 24th, 2000. He'd Google it and be like, how do you know that? And it's just, that's how I am. If you tell me your birthday, I will always remember that. It's just how I am. When I think of my brain, I think of it as a file cabinet where I can sift through, check out the file and be like, okay, I have the file. I know this, and this. It's weird how I remember just exact numbers, and it's weird. But, yeah, sorry, reading my notes. And then just being so forgetful, I would get so pissed off and so angry and so irritable, and that's not me. And I didn't like being angry all the time. I didn't understand what was going on. I knew it wasn't mom brain. I knew it wasn't lack of sleep because my kids sleep through the night, which I'm lucky, I know. But it's just, I would be so angry and I would start fights, and it just was not healthy. And I mean, some of you guys, you're great to me in the comments section. Some of you suck. And the ones that would say awful stuff, they would get the wrath of me because it's like unleash the dragon. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry because some of you deserve it, but whatever. So I expressed my concern to my doctor, and she wanted to up the Vibrid to 30 milligrams. And they don't make a 30 milligram tablet. So I needed to get 10s and 20s. And I tried the 30 for a little bit. It was not making me feel well at all. So I'm just like, screw it. I'm going to get off this stuff. I don't like how it's making me feel. So I started taking the 10s and I weaned myself off. So by my next appointment with her, I told her that I'm absolutely off of it. I don't want to be on it anymore. I don't like how it's making me feel. It's giving me awful thoughts, intrusive thoughts. I just don't want to be on it. And during this time too, it's the worst I've ever felt about myself. It's like, yes, I had 2 kids in 20 months, but I hate my body. Like, I loathe how my body looks. For the most part, I would wear makeup regularly, and I couldn't even stand looking at my face to put makeup on. Like, I'm so hideous. I'm a gremlin. I'm so gross. I can't stand how I look. And then in another reason to just really, kick me when I'm down was postpartum hair loss. I lost a bunch of hair. And I don't know if that was between postpartum hair loss and COVID, but every time I jump in the shower, literal clumps were falling out. And my hair was like down to here. I got chopped recently, and I have tons of regrowth, which is great, but still, I don't feel great about myself. I would look at myself with such disgust. And I wanted to lose the weight, but I live in northern Minnesota, close to Canada. It can be like 40 to 50 below in the winter. And winters are long. They're really long. They can go well into May. Like right now, it's 50 degrees out. That's why I'm wearing a big hoodie and a beanie, because why not? And it's like many fishing openers. There has been snow. It's been snowing. There's still ice on the lake. It's so iffy. And like I said, our winters can last like 6 months or longer. So I wanted to exercise, lose weight, but can't really get out and do that. It sucked. And then, I've been just waiting for it to get nicer to bring my boys on walks. I got this cool wagon stroller, which if you look at my community tab, whatever, you can see them in the stroller. It's awesome. They love it. And it's been so crappy where maybe a few days it's gotten above 60 degrees. And, I just want to bring them for walks and bring them to the park and just something. And I'm just determined to lose weight and feel better about myself. So I explained my feelings to my doctor and wrote detailed notes on how I feel. And what really helped me was I saw a creator talking about their ADHD and how they hyper-focus on things. And that made me Google ADHD and hyper-focus, because my whole life I tend to hyper-focus on things. And I didn't know that was a thing with ADHD, was hyper-focusing. But I read that most women with ADHD get an accurate diagnosis in their late 30s. And I'll be 36 next week, Wednesday, June 1st. Yay. Or early 40s. Experts say there could be several reasons behind the late diagnosis. It could be that the parents, teachers, or pediatricians miss ADHD symptoms and behaviors in young girls because they aren't that obvious. And so as a kid, I was very obedient. Didn't need to yell at me. I was good as gold, would sit in class, would not interrupt, would not be, jumping off the walls, anything like that. And I don't believe I have the hyperactivity. But my doctor told me that you can have ADHD without the hyperactivity. But anyway, also, I was an extremely sensitive kid. My mom, all she had to do was give me a look and I would cry. Growing up, she really didn't have to punish me much because I would punish myself even worse. So don't have to worry about that. And for the most part, I got really good grades in subjects I found interesting. So sometimes I wouldn't do well in a certain area of that subject, but then we'd have other things that would make up for it, like 10th grade history. We'd have to memorize the countries and their capitals. And I have a photographic memory. I would look at the map maybe a couple minutes before the test, and then we'd have to write in the countries, the capitals, whatever. And I would get 100% because I remembered it. So if I did poorly on another assignment, that would obviously bring my grade up. So I didn't have any telltale signs of, struggling in school by any means. So It's also possible that doctors diagnose girls and young women with other mood disorders like anxiety or depression rather than ADHD. Some new research suggests that women may develop ADHD symptoms later on in life, but scientists say they need more research to prove it. So that's what I was wondering. It's like with the forgetfulness, I haven't always been like that. So I was wondering if, did it develop later on, or, did it happen because is there something correlated with after having kids? And I read something along the lines of that too. It says when estrogen levels fall, as they do immediately after birth, dopamine levels decrease, and many women report a worsening of their ADHD symptoms. So with me, I'm wondering if that's my case. So, yeah. And then, okay, symptom signs in adult women. Difficulty with time management. That's me. Seems like I'm doing like a whole lot of nothing, or running around like a chicken with my head cut off and not really remembering what I did, Disorganization. I'm horrible about that. I'll start a project where I want to organize something like the boys' old clothes, go through them, get rid of their smaller sizes. Yeah, and then I get sidetracked and that's shot to shit. And then feeling overwhelmed, a history of anxiety, depression, which I do have, and difficulty with money management. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. That's iffy with me. And then ADHD can run in families. And my sister, she has ADD, and I believe my dad has undiagnosed ADHD. So when I told my doctor that, that's when she really wanted to get me a test to just kind of see where we're sitting at. So, okay. If you have undiagnosed ADHD, you're more likely to notice your own symptoms if your child or sibling gets a diagnosis. And then it's not uncommon for women with ADHD to have other problems at the same time, such as compulsive overeating, chronic lack of sleep, or drinking too much alcohol. Studies show that women with ADHD tend to have very low self-esteem. And that was another big thing for me. It's like mine is in the toilet, like rock bottom. So then they also seem to have more emotional and psychological distress compared to adult men with ADHD. And with how I've been feeling, absolutely believe that. So depending on the severity, some women manage to hide their symptoms to avoid shame and rejection. Other women may feel like their lives are in literal chaos. This can affect the whole family since statistics show women are typically in charge of caring for the home and children. Poor coping strategies can take a toll on your day-to-day life and magnify your struggles. You may find that it's hard to keep up with the demands of your job, cook regular meals for your family, or stay on top of other household tasks. This is me. It's like, especially when you have a 2-year-old and an 8-month-old, trying to constantly clean up after them, it's never ending. So, and then you always feel like you're trying to catch up, which can lead to exhaustion and chronic stress. And me, I always feel exhausted, like no energy whatsoever. It's like I drink so many rock stars, which is bad. I'm slowly cutting that down and drinking more water. So, but yeah, it's like no energy, where I'm literally dragging, and I feel like my kids got the shit end of the stick. Like their mom totally sucks because I'm just literally dragging. So I was telling my doctor how frustrated and angry I was that I can't concentrate to save my soul. I always felt like I didn't know where the time went. I was horrible at multitasking. I couldn't just sit down and read a book. And I used to be a huge reader in the past. I could go through a couple books a week because I'd always read before bedtime. And I kind of chalk that up to kids now, But sometimes when they're napping, whatever, and I'm trying to read a book, it's like I can read the same page 5 times. And it's like I'm not comprehending what the hell is going on. So that sucks because I love reading. So now I have a subscription to Audible, which is great. I didn't expect to love it as much as I do, and I didn't realize how much of a audio learner I am. So, totally recommend Audible. It's not like I'm sponsored, but totally, it really helps me. And then starting and finishing a task seemed impossible because I'd run into other tasks that needed to be done. I knew this wasn't mom brain. My doc emailed me a test to complete and email back to her. So I'm gonna read that test, and I don't know, if you're kind of on the fence where you sit, maybe this can help you. And this is one of those where you check off never, rarely, sometimes, often, very often. So how often do you have trouble wrapping up the final details of a project once the challenging parts have been done? Me, I put very often. How often do you have difficulty getting things in order when you have to do a task that requires organization? I put very often. How often do you have problems remembering appointments or obligations? I put very often. When you have a task that requires a lot of thought, how often do you avoid or delay getting started? I put very often. How often do you fidget or squirm with your hands or feet when you have to sit down for a long time? I put very often. I'm usually shaking my foot or something. How often do you feel overly active and compelled to do things like you're driven by a motor? And I put often. It's like I can't just sit and enjoy myself. It's like, okay, I have to get up and do the laundry. Like right now, the dryer's running. You can probably hear it. And I will sit in front of the TV and try to hang up or fold clothes. But then I get sidetracked with something and it's just, ugh. Then how often do you make careless mistakes when you have to work on a boring or difficult project? I put very often. How often do you have difficulty keeping your attention when you are doing boring or repetitive work? I put very often. How often do you have difficulty concentrating on what people say to you, even when they're speaking to you directly? And I put very often. How often do you misplace or have difficulty finding things at home or at work? I put very often. How often are you distracted by activity or noise around you? And I put very often. How often do you leave your seat in meetings or other situations in which you are expected to remain seated? I put sometimes. That's not really a big issue for me. And then how often do you feel restless or fidgety? I put often. How often do you have difficulty unwinding and relaxing when you have time to yourself? I put very often. I feel like I am constantly needing to do something or feel like I'm doing something productive, or I just feel useless, worthless, whatever. And it's no one that makes me feel that way. It's just how I feel. So it's weird. How often do you find yourself eating too much or talking too much? I don't know where I got eating. Talking too much when you're in social situations. I put often. Because sometimes I don't know what to say, so I keep talking, and then I'm a dumbass, and then I feel even more stupid, and yeah. When you're in a conversation, how often do you feel yourself finishing the sentences of the people you're talking to before they can finish them themselves? And I put sometimes, but if it's someone I know really well, like my husband, my best friend, my mom, very often. And then, how often do you have difficulty waiting your turn in situations where taking your turn is required? And I put sometimes, but again, if it's my husband or mom or my best friend, someone I'm really comfortable with, very often. And then last one, how often do you interrupt others when they are busy? I don't know about busy, but if we're talking, I tend to interrupt people because, I don't know, I get excited. So yeah, this is the Adult ADHD Self-Report Scale Symptom Checklist. So maybe that can help you with kind of like a baseline and go from there. If you score somewhat high on there, I don't know how to score it actually because I sent it to my doctor, but I'm sure you can look it up. So if you can somehow find out how to score it and you score somewhat high, maybe you should mention that to your doctor. So I scored really high on it, according to my doctor. I think she sensed my desperation because she told me formal testing has a waiting list until 2023. And so she asked me tons of questions because even if I went to a big city that's 4 hours away, I'd have to wait till December. And I told her I absolutely cannot go on feeling like this, especially 6 months. There's no way. So she felt confident with her diagnosis and the treatment route we take because, I mean, we talked for a long time. And she asked me a bunch of questions and just I gave her as detailed of answers as I could. So by that, I mean, I was crying tears of relief that she was willing to help me without me having to wait for a formal diagnosis, that we can somehow treat it now for the time being until I'm formally tested. But yeah, she felt confident enough with, how bad my scores were, I guess. But, it just felt great that I had someone that, she understood and would keep helping me find a solution to feel better. I had texted her twice to bump up my appointments because I absolutely felt like I couldn't continue feeling this awful. And she's amazing. When I text her, like, hey, is there any way I can get in sooner? I feel awful. Like, is there any way to, make me feel better? Is there some sort of therapy, something? I was willing to work with her and she's willing to work with me, which she's amazing. And I couldn't deal with the anger, especially. It's like I'm not an angry person and the anger was consuming me. It just was awful. I told her I felt like I'm going to burn my relationships to the ground, like scorched earth, including my marriage. I was picking fights and just being difficult. She decided to try a new medication. Since starting it, I feel so much better. And, that's an understatement. I'm not really comfortable telling, what medication I'm on, but if you were to message me, maybe needing some guidance, yeah, I can tell you whatever if we talk personally, but publicly, I just don't want to say it because it's no one's business but my own. So I can finally focus, which, this took hours of doing notes, and for me to be able to do that was amazing. I finally feel like I'm in the present with my boys and my husband. I don't feel like my mind is wandering somewhere else, like thinking 10 steps ahead or worrying about what I did yesterday. I finally feel present and that's amazing. I have energy to give them a few mile walk spontaneously, which was awesome. Yesterday it was finally decent out. After their nap, went on a couple mile walk just spontaneously. And I have chronic pain, so sometimes I have to psych myself up. I have sciatica. So back pain and everything, it is horrid. But I know to lose weight and whatever, and to get better with the chronic pain, if you don't use it, you kind of lose it. So I know I have to get back into the swing of things, but yeah. And then my anger, frustration, being pissed off, it's dissipated a lot. So in order to be on this medication, I had to stop taking my Klonopin, which was terrifying because Klonopin has saved my ass so many times with panic attacks and whatnot. But yeah, I'm pretty sure my anxiety was intricately woven with the ADHD. And if you get the ADHD treated, it will treat the anxiety and the other symptoms that go along with it. So, she wants me to have like an emergency amount just in case if I do have panic attacks, which thank God for her. So just knowing I have a safety net makes me feel so much better. So treating the ADHD is also treating my anxiety disorders, which, awesome. And then I am going to get into ADHD diagnosis in adult women. Basically, the top symptoms, and I related to so much of this. And if you're still with me watching, thank you. I know this is long, but maybe someone out there can get something out of this. So, number 1, lack of impulse control. Impatience, waiting in line, or driving in traffic, to mood swings and outbursts of anger, frequent mood swings, hot temper, low frustration tolerance, trouble coping with stress, impulsiveness, can be saying whatever's on your mind without considering consequences, such as buying things you don't need, suddenly quitting a job, or engaging in unprotected, intimate encounters. So reading this and like the mood swings and anger, this is what hit me because it's so out of my character. Number 2, lack of focus. Being easily distracted, finding it hard to listen to others in conversation, overlooking details, and not completing tasks, projects. Number 3, hyperfocus. Basically means they become so fixated on one thing that they block out the rest of the world. This kind of focus makes it easier to lose track of time, ignore those around you. This can lead to relationship misunderstandings. Hyperfocus, like for me, when I was younger, after Jurassic Park, I wanted to know everything about dinosaurs. And then when Twister came out, I wanted to be a storm chaser. Knew everything I could about storms. Then when Titanic came out, I knew everything about the Titanic. So catch my drift. Weird conspiracy theories, like I would dive deep down the rabbit hole, and it gets obsessive. Like right now, I'm watching the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, and it's like I get so sucked into it. It's probably like unhealthy, but whatever. And I mean, I would get lost in the hours of, leaked audio between them, and just, I don't know, I can drive myself crazy with hyper focusing on things. And it's like, I've always been that way. It's weird. So 4, poor listening skills. Patient may seem to listen but not really take in the info, may forget to perform a task even if someone just called to remind them. Yeah, mine was getting that bad. 5, procrastination. Will often leave tasks right until the last minute to complete. When under the gun and anxious, that's when they can focus, Leaving things until the last minute can create a lot of stress, which can lead to constant anxiety. So completing tasks on time based on being anxious can also be a catch-22. Depends on how you deal with that kind of pressure. 6, misplace common items because they have an underpowered state of being consciousness, easily misplacing keys, wallet, etc. Yes, I do this how many times a day? It's so frustrating how many times I'll ask my husband to call my phone because I can't find it and it's literally in my hand. 7, restlessness. Adults with ADHD are more likely to be restless or find they can't relax. You'll appear edgy or tense to others. Many adults with ADHD have other mental health conditions, including anxiety. 8, disorganization. 9, thrill seeker, more likely to engage in risky activities that get their adrenaline pumping. Skydiving, bungee jumping, fast driving, gambling, even extramarital affairs. The symptom can cause a person to put themselves in potentially dangerous situations. 10, relationship woes. People who suffer from this condition tend to experience problems in the relationships once the novelty or honeymoon phase wears off. Inability to focus, easily distracted, lack of impulse control, bad temper, poor listening skills. 11, emotional issues. And this ties in with the relationship woes. Someone with ADHD will experience a constant flux in their emotions, 1 minute up, the next down, easily distracted or unable to focus. Adults with ADHD might suffer from a short fuse or quick temper, have trouble controlling their emotions in heated situations, and find themselves easily frustrated and fuming mad 1 second, then completely over it the next. The symptom is tricky and easily misconstrued as bipolar disorder. Often people with ADHD are misdiagnosed with bipolar disorder. It's scary like how many people are misdiagnosed with different disorders or mental illnesses instead of ADHD. It's crazy. 12, trouble at work. Have trouble making themselves focus on the mundane tasks of their job, inability to focus, procrastination, emotional instability, and disorganization. People with ADHD should avoid jobs that have a lot of repetition and choose work that is engaging and fulfilling. I mean, I think most people are like that, where they have a job that they love and interest. You're a smoker. I found this really interesting. 40% of people with ADHD smoke. Nicotine is very effective for a lot of ADHD symptoms. People with ADHD are also more likely than the average person to use alcohol and other drugs at a young age. Adults with ADHD are more likely to suffer from substance abuse problems with cigarettes, drugs, and alcohol. It's unclear what the correlation is, but most likely due to the fact that they use these substances to self-medicate. They might find these substances help them sleep, relieve anxiety, or hope to improve focus. I found that one crazy about smoking. Like, I wouldn't have ever put the two together, but yeah. So I'm thinking that's all my... just when you think I'm done, nope. 11 things that make adult ADHD worse. 1, lack of exercise. Physical activity can improve your memory, can also help you make decisions, learn, and pay attention. 2, eating out often. Making dinner takes a lot of mental effort. You have to plan, prep, and follow steps. Healthy food can help you manage ADHD. Restaurant food is packed with calories, sugar, salt, and fat. You won't get enough fruits and vegetables either. 3, too much junk food. 4, skipping breakfast. Breakfast can make it easier to handle social situations. I had no idea. It can help you think and keep you focused longer early in the day. 5. Messy homes, offices. Piles of papers, books, laundry remind you of all the stuff you need to do. Sometimes it can be too much. That makes sense. I heard that if your environment is chaotic, it'll bring chaos to your life, so makes perfect sense. Too much stuff can lead to hoarding. I can see that. 7. Wrong meds. When you were diagnosed, were you honest with your doctor about your life and symptoms? If not, you may be on the wrong treatment, which, yeah, it's always good to be honest with your doctor about everything, 8. Lack of sleep. 9. Quitting therapy. Therapy really helps when paired with medication. Then 10. Too much screen time, which I never even thought about, but makes sense. 11. Not enough caffeine. Caffeine may help your symptoms, or may make your symptoms better, more alert, help you focus, help your brain work better. Who knew? So maybe my caffeine intake is good after all. But yeah, I hope this video was helpful for you. Just reading all this information helped me, realize something was not right with just me. And, you're your best advocate. So by me constantly telling my doctor something's wrong, I feel like this isn't right, whatever, and just having a doctor that listens, I'm lucky. She's amazing. But hopefully this was helpful. I really hope it is, because I understand the frustration. I was literally losing my mind, and just, it sucked. I don't know how else to put it. It's like I was so frustrated and angry and just upset all the time. So anyway, guys, hopefully you take away something from this, and hopefully I don't get too many nasty comments. But anyway, I hope you have a great one. I hope you have a safe Memorial Day weekend. And as always, don't be an asshole. Bye.